Sarah stood in the laundry room, the warm sunlight spilling through the tall window, lighting up the soft dust floating in the air. She held a freshly washed shirt in her hands, the smell of detergent still lingering in the fabric. The rhythmic hum of the washing machine and dryer created a steady background noise, almost like a quiet song that filled the house. It was one of those rare afternoons when the world outside seemed to pause, leaving her alone with her thoughts, the laundry, and the steady tick of time. She folded the shirt carefully, smoothing out the wrinkles, and stacked it neatly on the table. Then she picked up another shirt, folding it with the same precision, almost mechanically. Sarah had learned to find a strange comfort in these small, ordinary tasks. Folding laundry was repetitive and simple, but it also gave her a sense of order in a life that had sometimes felt messy and chaotic. She paused for a moment and let her mind drift. The house was unusually quiet. Daniel, her teenage son, was probably in his room, headphones on, lost in his own world. The thought made her smile softly, though a small ache settled in her chest. Sarah had been feeling this quiet loneliness more often lately. Her days were full of responsibilities. Work, cleaning, errands, cooking, and taking care of Daniel. But between those duties, there was often a gap of space where she felt a longing for connection, for conversation that wasn't rushed, for laughter. That wasn't just a background sound in the kitchen, no, or living room. Her husband had passed away several years ago, and while life had continued, there were moments when the weight of his absence pressed down on her. Folding laundry was practical, yes, but it was also a quiet pause, a time when memories and emotions crept in unnoticed. Sarah picked up a pair of socks and held them together, staring at the worn fabric. She remembered the first pair of socks Daniel had worn as a little boy, the ones with the tiny dinosaurs on them. She chuckled quietly, shaking her head at how fast he had grown. Life moved on, sometimes too quickly. She folded the socks carefully, placing them in the pile with the others. As she worked, her mind wandered to small, ordinary moments that she had almost forgotten. She remembered mornings when Daniel had climbed into her bed, asking her to read a story before school. She remembered late nights sitting together on the couch, laughing at a silly movie or talking about school projects and friends. Those moments were precious, fleeting, and now they seemed more distant, like a photograph, fading at the edges. The hum of the dryer changed, signaling that it had finished its cycle. Sarah walked over and pulled out a warm towel, folding it slowly. She let the warmth sink into her hands, enjoying the simple comfort. She was so focused on the laundry that she almost didn't notice Daniel slipping into the room. At first, she thought it was just the sound of footsteps, but then she heard him clear his throat. The sound startled her slightly, and she turned around. "Mom," Daniel said softly, voice carrying a mixture of hesitation and anticipation. Sarah looked at him, surprised by the sudden presence. "Hey, sweetheart, what's up?" she asked, her voice gentle. She wasn't expecting him in the laundry room, and his tone suggested that something unusual was about to happen. There was a subtle difference in his eyes, a seriousness that didn't belong to the usual teenage mischief. Sarah folded her hands around the towel she was holding, feeling a little nervous now. Daniel hesitated as if trying to find the right words. He looked down for a moment, then back at her. I made something for you," he said, holding something small behind his back. His hands were slightly shaky, betraying his nervousness. Sarah felt her heart flutter. She knelt down to be at his level, curiosity rising. "For me?" she asked softly, reaching out her hands. She tried to hide her surprise and excitement. Her heart thumped gently in her chest, a mix of curiosity and an unexpected warmth. Daniel nodded, his lips pressed together in a small, uncertain smile. He stepped closer and revealed a folded envelope, plain and unassuming, yet holding a weight she couldn't explain. Sarah took the envelope carefully. She could feel the smooth paper under her fingertips and the slight stiffness of something folded inside. Her chest tightened with anticipation. "I wasn't expecting this," she whispered. She could see the hope in Daniel's eyes, the quiet wish that she would like whatever he had done. He was growing up so fast, yet at that moment he seemed so vulnerable, so tender. And Sarah felt a swell of love for him that was almost painful in its intensity. Daniel shifted from foot to foot, yet clearly nervous. "I thought, maybe you'd like it," he said finally. His voice was quiet, but it carried honesty and care, something that made Sarah pause. She opened the envelope slowly, careful not to tear it, and pulled out the folded contents. Inside was a hand-drawn picture of their small family. Sarah, Daniel, and her late husband, smiling together in a sunny park. Sarah felt her eyes widen. The colors were bright, the lines simple but full of emotion. Daniel had captured a moment that existed in her heart, one that she thought only she remembered. At the bottom of the picture, in small, careful letters, Daniel had written a note. "I want you to be happy, Mom. I think you deserve more than just work and chores." Sarah's hands shook slightly as she read the words. She could feel tears gathering in her eyes, but she blinked them back. Her son, just a boy growing into a young man, had noticed her loneliness. He had seen her struggles and had tried in his own gentle way to remind her that she mattered, that her happiness mattered. Sarah looked up at him, unable to find words immediately. The laundry room felt smaller somehow, warmer and more alive. Daniel shifted, unsure whether to speak or wait. Sarah reached out and took his hand, squeezing it gently. "Thank you, sweetheart," she whispered. The tears she had held back now threatened to spill. She felt a deep, tender emotion rising in her chest, a mixture of pride, love, and gratitude. She had not expected this gesture, the small act of care, but it touched her in a way that nothing else had in a long time. After the surprise in the laundry room, Sarah still held the envelope in her hands, her fingers brushing over the edges, as if touching them could somehow carry the warmth of her son's thoughtfulness into her heart. Daniel stood nearby, shifting from one foot to the other, his expression a mixture of nervousness and quiet hope. He had never been shy about showing his feelings, but this moment was different. There was a tenderness in his eyes that Sarah had not noticed before, a careful care that made her heart both ache and swell with love for him. She smiled softly at him, brushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear, trying to hide the tears threatening to spill. "Daniel," she began, her voice catching slightly. She wasn't sure what to say. Words felt small and weak compared to the depth of feeling rising inside her. How could a simple drawing and a few words make her feel so seen, so touched, and so grateful all at once? Her mind wandered to the long months after her husband's passing, when the house felt too quiet and the days felt too long. She had buried herself in work and routines, trying to fill the emptiness with tasks and responsibilities. And yet here was her son, noticing the smallest cracks in her heart and reminding her that she mattered, that someone cared. Daniel shifted again, taking a small step closer. I just wanted to do something for you," he said softly. "You do so much for me, Mom." "I thought maybe I could do something to make you smile." Sarah felt her chest tighten at his words. She had never realized how aware he was, how deeply he felt. His innocence and growing maturity coexisted in a way that made her feel both proud and achingly aware of how quickly he was growing up. Sarah took a deep breath and knelt beside him. She wanted to meet his gaze, to let him see how much this small gesture meant to her. She held the envelope close to her chest, feeling the warmth of the paper through her fingers. And then she looked at Daniel with a gentle, emotional smile. "Sweetheart, this means so much to me," she whispered. "You didn't have to, but you did, and I can't tell you how happy it makes me." Daniel's lips curved into a small, shy smile. He looked away for a moment, brushing his hand against the back of his neck, a nervous habit he had carried since he was a boy. "I just wanted you to know," he said quietly. "I know life can be hard sometimes, and I want you to be happy, not just busy." Sarah's eyes softened, and a small laugh escaped her, a laugh full of warmth and relief. Here was her son, growing into someone who understood more than she thought he could. Here was proof that love and care could exist in small, quiet gestures, moments that might seem ordinary, but carried extraordinary meaning. She picked up the drawing and held it closer, her eyes scanning the simple lines and bright colors. It was not perfect, but it captured something far greater than artistic skill. It captured love, memory, and attention to detail that only someone who truly cared could create. She traced her finger along the figures of her small family, lingering on Daniel's smiling face, and then on the little note he had written. "I want you to be happy, Mom. I think you deserve more than just work and chores." The words felt like a gentle hand on her heart, a soft reminder that she deserved joy, that she deserved moments of care and attention, that she was not alone in her feelings. Sarah looked back at Daniel, and her heart swelled with a mixture of pride and love. He had grown into a thoughtful young man, sensitive to the emotions of those around him, yet he was still her little boy in many ways. And this moment reminded her of all the times he had surprised her with kindness, all the times he had noticed things she thought she hid too well. She hid too well. Her emotions threatened to spill over, but she held them back, wanting to savor the moment, to remember it, to let it settle into her heart like sunlight warming a quiet corner of the house. Daniel's eyes searched hers, a quiet question lingering in his gaze. He wanted to know that she understood, that she felt the love and care behind his small gesture. Sarah reached out and gently touched his cheek, a motherly gesture, but also one filled with deep emotion. "I feel it, Daniel," she said softly. "I feel everything. Everything. You don't know how much this means to me. Not just the drawing, but that you notice, that you care. You always notice." Daniel's smile grew, a mixture of relief and pride. He had wanted to make her happy, but he had not known if it would work. Seeing her reaction, seeing the softness in her eyes and the gentle curve of her lips made him feel a quiet joy. He stepped back slightly, giving her space, but the bond between them felt closer than ever. They didn't need words to fill the room. The quiet hum of the appliances, the warmth of the sunlight, and the unspoken understanding between mother and son spoke louder than any conversation could. Sarah took a deep breath and held the drawing to her chest again. She realized that this small act from Daniel had shifted something in her. She felt seen, acknowledged, and loved. Her heart, which had carried so much quiet ache, felt lighter, as though the room itself had shifted. And as she looked at her son, she realized that moments like these were what life was made of. Not the endless chores, not the quiet loneliness, but these small, tender gestures that reminded her of connection, of care, of love. She hugged Daniel gently, holding him close, and he hugged her back, both of them savoring the warmth of the embrace. It was quiet, but it was full of meaning, a quiet celebration of family, love, and understanding. And in that simple, ordinary laundry room, Sarah realized something important. Happiness did not always come from grand gestures or extraordinary events. Sometimes it came in small, quiet ways, through a note, a drawing, the simple act of noticing someone's heart. As they pulled away from the hug, Sarah looked at Daniel with a new awareness. She had always known he was growing up, but now she saw the depth of his care, the strength of his heart, and the beauty of his sensitivity. And in that realization, she felt a gentle hope stirring, a hope that life still had surprises for her, that love still had ways of entering her heart, and that she could find joy in moments she had once considered ordinary. After the quiet, tender moment with Daniel, Sarah returned to the kitchen. The drawing clutched loosely in her hands. The sunlight had begun to shift, stretching across the wooden floor in long golden beams. She set the envelope on the counter, still feeling the warmth of her son's gesture lingering in her chest. For a moment, she paused, letting herself breathe deeply, the soft hum of the house around her. She realized that the laundry, the chores, the routine, all the things she had buried herself in, no longer felt heavy. Instead, they felt like a backdrop to something far more meaningful: connection, love, and the quiet recognition of being seen. Sarah leaned against the counter, her mind drifting to thoughts she had tried to keep tucked away. There had been so many years since her husband's passing, years filled with the weight of loss and the quiet ache of longing for companionship. She had loved deeply once, and that love had shaped every part of her life. Even though Daniel's presence had been a constant joy, there were moments when the house felt too quiet, the nights too long, and she found herself missing a closeness she had almost forgotten could exist. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to consider that maybe life had room for new connections, for warmth and companionship that didn't diminish her love for Daniel, but added to the fullness of her heart. Daniel's words echoed softly in her mind. "I want you to be happy, Mom. I think you deserve more than just work and chores." The simplicity of the statement carried a power she hadn't expected. He had seen the weight she carried, and in his own way, he had reached out to her, reminding her that happiness was not selfish and that it was possible even after loss. Sarah realized that the gesture had shifted something inside her. She felt a flicker of hope, fragile yet persistent, like a candle in a quiet room. It made her wonder whether she had been too cautious, too protective of her heart, and whether perhaps the world still held surprises for her, surprises that could bring joy in unexpected ways. She carried a cup of tea to the living room and settled onto the couch, letting the warmth of the mug seep into her hands. The house felt different, somehow lighter and more alive. She thought about her interactions with Daniel, how his presence had become a quiet anchor in her life. But there was also another presence she had noticed recently, someone she had met at the grocery store a few weeks ago, a man named Alex. He had been kind, gentle, and attentive, and their conversations, though brief, had lingered in her mind. Sarah hadn't thought much about romance in years, but lately the memory of his smile and the sound of his laughter had begun to stir something inside her. She set the cup down and leaned back, thinking carefully. The idea of opening her heart again felt both exciting and frightening. There was a part of her that worried about stepping into something new, about allowing herself to feel attraction and companionship after so many years of careful independence. And yet the memory of Daniel's small act of love reminded her that vulnerability could be beautiful, that connection could bring warmth rather than pain. Sarah realized that perhaps she had been holding herself back, protecting herself from disappointment, when what she really needed was to embrace the possibility of joy. Just as she was lost in thought, Daniel appeared in the doorway, carrying a stack of folded laundry. He looked at her with a mixture of pride and shyness, as though he had taken on the role of helper and confidant in their quiet household. "I finished the laundry," he said softly. "Didn't want you to worry about it any more today." Sarah smiled at him, her heart warming again at his thoughtfulness. She wanted to tell him how much it meant, but words felt unnecessary. Her smile and the way she reached out to ruffle his hair said everything she needed to convey. "Thank you, Daniel," she said gently. "You always think of others. I don't know what I would do without you." Her eyes softened as she looked at him. She realized that in this moment he was not just her son. He was also her companion, her comfort, her reminder that love could be found in both big gestures and small, everyday acts. Daniel blushed slightly, a quiet pride in his expression. He set the laundry on the couch beside her and sat down, careful not to crowd her space, but close enough that the shared warmth of the moment enveloped them both. Sarah sipped her tea again, feeling the quiet rhythm of the house, the presence of her son beside her, and the lingering thought of Alex in her mind. She allowed herself to imagine what it might be like to open her heart again, to let someone into her life without fear, to find companionship that complemented rather than replaced the love she had for Daniel. The thought was both thrilling and delicate, like holding a fragile flower in her hand, aware that it could be crushed if treated carelessly, but also capable of blooming into something beautiful if nurtured. Suddenly, there was a knock at the front door. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't been expecting anyone, and the sound carried a curious energy that made her pulse quicken. Daniel glanced at her, his eyes wide with curiosity, and then quickly stood up. "I'll get it," he said, hurrying to the door. Sarah followed slowly, her mind swirling with anticipation. She felt an odd mixture of nervousness and excitement, as though the universe had conspired to bring something unexpected into their quiet afternoon. Daniel opened the door, and a familiar smile greeted them both. Alex stood there, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers, his eyes soft and warm. "Hi, Sarah," he said, his voice gentle yet filled with a subtle excitement. "I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by. I brought these for you." Sarah felt a rush of emotion, her chest tightening with surprise and delight. She hadn't anticipated this visit, and the sight of Alex with his thoughtful gesture and kind expression made her heart flutter. Daniel watched quietly, sensing the shift in his mother's emotions. He smiled knowingly, as if understanding that this small moment could be the beginning of something new for Sarah. Sarah took the flowers from Alex, her fingers brushing his lightly, and felt a warmth that was both comforting and exhilarating. She realized that life, even after loss, had a way of offering unexpected joys, and that love could still enter her life in gentle, surprising ways. As she brought the flowers inside, Sarah felt a sense of hope stirring in her chest. The afternoon had begun as ordinary as any other, filled with chores and quiet thoughts. But now it held the promise of connection, romance, and the subtle magic of human kindness. And in that soft golden light, with Daniel by her side and Alex standing at the doorway, Sarah understood that life's surprises were often the ones that mattered most. The afternoon sunlight had softened into a warm, golden glow by the time Sarah finally closed the door behind Alex. The house, which had felt quiet and predictable for so long, seemed to hum with a gentle energy that made her chest feel light. She carried the bouquet of wildflowers to the kitchen table, arranging them in a simple vase, and paused for a moment to just breathe. Life had a way of surprising her when she least expected it, she realized, and today was proof. Between Daniel's thoughtful drawing and Alex's unexpected visit, her heart felt as though it had been awakened from a long, cautious sleep. Daniel leaned against the counter, watching his mother with a mixture of curiosity and quiet pride. He had sensed that something important was happening, even if he didn't fully understand it. There was a new softness in Sarah's expression, a quiet glow that had not been there before. He wanted to ask questions to understand what she felt, but he also understood instinctively that this was her moment to explore, to let herself feel without interruption. Instead, he simply smiled, the pride in his chest deepening. He had always wanted his mother to be happy, but seeing her now, seeing the gentle spark in her eyes, felt like witnessing a miracle of quiet love and possibility. Sarah poured herself a cup of tea, the steam curling in delicate tendrils above the cup. She sank into the couch, holding the warm mug in her hands, and looked at Alex, who had settled into the armchair across from her. He had a calm, easy presence that made her feel safe, as if the world outside could fall away, and nothing else mattered but this quiet room, this moment shared between them. Their conversation started gently, filled with small talk about everyday things. Work, Daniel's school, the neighborhood, but beneath the words, a deeper current ran. They spoke with a sense of ease, a connection that did not need to be forced, as if their hearts already understood something their words could not capture. Sarah found herself laughing softly at one of Alex's jokes, a laugh that had been absent for far too long. Daniel glanced at her from the doorway, a small smile on his lips. He had never seen his mother so visibly relaxed and lighthearted. There had been years of quiet heaviness, of careful routines and subdued days. But now, in this simple living room filled with soft sunlight and the scent of flowers, she seemed renewed. He realized that love, romantic love, did not replace family, did not compete with it. It added another layer of warmth, a new dimension to the heart's capacity to feel. As the conversation continued, Sarah noticed herself leaning slightly closer to Alex, a subtle movement, almost instinctive, as though drawn by a gentle force she had not anticipated. Her heart beat a little faster, a mixture of excitement and nervousness, and she became aware of the soft electricity in the room. She had not realized how much she had missed the feeling of being seen as a woman, as someone capable of giving and receiving affection beyond the bounds of family. Alex's attentive gaze, his thoughtful words, and his quiet patience stirred feelings in her that she had almost forgotten she could feel. Daniel, sensing the shift in energy, quietly excused himself, pretending to check on something in the kitchen. But before he left, he paused at the doorway, looking back at his mother with a small knowing smile. He had seen her happiness bloom in ways he had only hoped for. The moment was delicate and profound, a silent acknowledgement that love could be gentle, tender, and unexpected, yet powerful enough to awaken even the most cautious hearts. Sarah and Alex continued their conversation in a quieter, more intimate rhythm. The topics ranged from books they loved to memories of childhood summers to small dreams they had never shared with anyone else. Each story, each laugh, each glance shared across the room created a subtle bond that felt both new and familiar. Sarah realized that what she was feeling was not just attraction, but a recognition of compatibility, of shared values, of mutual respect and understanding. It was a feeling that made her chest ache with longing and hope all at once, a mixture that was both thrilling and terrifying. As the afternoon faded into evening, Sarah felt a sudden urge to express something she had not said aloud. "Alex," she began softly, I didn't expect today to be like this. It's been a long time since I've felt this light, this happy." Her voice trembled slightly, but Alex's gentle smile reassured her. He leaned forward slightly, his hands resting on his knees, and met her gaze with a warmth that made her feel both seen and safe. "Sarah, you deserve every bit of happiness," he said simply. "I'm glad I could be here, and I hope this is just the beginning." Sarah felt a swell of emotion in her chest. She realized that life, even after heartbreak and loss, could surprise her with moments of tenderness and possibility. Daniel had reminded her of the power of small gestures, and now Alex reminded her that new beginnings were possible, that love could enter quietly, patiently, and beautifully. She felt a mixture of gratitude and hope, a deep awareness that her heart had room to grow again, to feel and to connect. As the sky outside darkened into shades of pink and purple, Sarah and Alex sat in quiet conversation, the room bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun. There was no rush, no pressure, only the gentle unfolding of trust and affection, the quiet promise of something meaningful blossoming. Sarah felt her heart expand with warmth, knowing that she was not alone, that she could allow herself to feel deeply, to hope, and to embrace the unexpected. When Daniel returned, he noticed the subtle changes in the room, the soft smiles, the easy conversation, the gentle laughter. He quietly placed a blanket over the couch and settled back, feeling a deep sense of peace. He understood that his mother's heart was opening again, and he felt proud, protective, and quietly joyous all at once. He realized that this moment, filled with tenderness, love, and quiet romance, would be a memory he would cherish forever. As the evening settled fully, Sarah looked at Alex and then at Daniel, her heart full. Life had presented her with small miracles, a son who cared deeply and noticed the quiet corners of her heart, and a man who brought gentle companionship and warmth she hadn't expected. In that ordinary yet extraordinary evening, Sarah felt a profound sense of gratitude, hope, and love, reminding her that life could be beautiful even after pain, and that the heart always had room to heal, to open, and to embrace the unexpected. And in that quiet, golden-lit living room, Sarah realized something essential. Love could be gentle, love could be surprising, and love could arrive when you least expected it. But when it did, it could transform ordinary moments into memories that would linger in the heart forever.